Dana, we can't hear you. No one can hear you. Looks like you got a new microphone. I don't know what's going on here. Nothing. Don't worry. I'll carry the team while you get it figured out. What's up, everybody? We have a great show today. Some old friends, new friends, talking about all kinds of stuff.
Can you hear me now?
There she is. Let's go.
It's so funny you said that because I literally said, yeah, we're going to be, did you read my list? I said, we're going to be catching up with some friends today. I said, we have Evan, Aldo, Samuel Arms. They're up to some cool stuff. And we also have the ITC conference coming up November 21st. So, yeah. And then I also mentioned that you were too busy hanging out with the president.
I did. I got to go see dude. I am so bullish. I'm calling it right now. Bear season is I'm calling it for the 40th week in a row, but bear season is over. We are officially in taking profits to early season. Load up Solana under $75. I think is going to be. We're going to look back and be like, that's one of those trades that just seems absurdly good. So that's how I feel. But I got the call, almost 2 weeks ago. The president requests your presence in New Jersey in a couple days. So I loaded up the family in the pickup. I stopped at Buc-ee's. I saw this hat, and I was like, this hat looks like a Meet the President type hat, don't you think? I feel like this is the kind of hat that I should be wearing when I meet the president. Got to spend nearly an hour with the big boss. Got my presidential challenge coin. Look at this beast. No one does challenge coins like the president.
Can you tell me about that?
So military officers often give out challenge coins. So, if you work for a general or an admiral, they usually carry some kind of token, some kind of coin to to give to people, dignitaries, diplomats, people who do good service for them. So got President Trump's, which I'm pretty sure is gold. Actually, I've got everybody in the family got one, both kids. Me and Jen both got them. Thing is mighty. Coolest challenge coin I've ever seen. But had a great meeting. Left feeling very bullish about the future of America. Dude, there's no President Trump. He really is. I don't think people understand just how funny and personable he is when you get to hang out with him. Amazing.
That's pretty cool.
I brought my 15-year-old and my 13-year-old with me.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them got multiple handshakes and pictures, and Trump made them laugh probably half a dozen times. It was awesome.
Well, I hope you can help carry the country forward in that hat.
This hat is.
You'll do a great job.
This is some take over the world type hat stuff. It's funny.
I can't even keep up with everything you're doing. I don't even know. Just whatever. Going to see the president. You'll go to the moon next week.
Well, so what's funny is when I was thinking about whether I could get away with wearing the hat to see, because I really did. I wore the hat and the beard, go hang out. This is what I look like, right? I want the pictures to accurately reflect what I look like. So, but I was thinking about, my friend Brock Pierce, he's known for his eccentric hats, and he did not disappoint. So we had 2 eccentric hats in the building meeting President Trump. So that was pretty awesome. But anyway, enough rambling. We have some awesome people. Let's get them on.
Evan and Samuel. Hey guys, it's been a long time. So what's going on?
Oh man, living life, Tana, enjoying the summer. I was actually, we mentioned it, Digital Nomad. I was living in Mexico before I came back to Miami for the summer to my apartment in Miami, and it feels cool in Miami compared to how hot it was near Cancun, Mexico, if that's even possible. So this weather's not too bad, actually.
It feels like we're on the surface of the sun in Florida. Sam,
you haven't seen. You got to go to Mexico in the summer. Go to some of the places. There's Southeast Asia and actually the March or April in Cambodia. Oh my God, you haven't seen heat, man, Dustin. You haven't seen. You got to leave the U.S. if you want to melt.
I've done summers in Arizona a couple times. Did some campaigns there.
Okay.
Like we had 1 week in particular. I remember we didn't go under like 107. That was pretty brutal. But like here, it's the humidity. Like I can feel the air. Like it's like
yeah.
See, I actually like the humidity, the dry heat. Like my nose bleeds, my throat gets dry. But I'm a Florida native. I was born here, so very much used to it.
Yeah.
Samuel, what have you been up to?
Well, it's midterms, so doing a lot of political campaigns and political work for the midterms. We had DeSantis just recently let all of our crypto bills in Florida pass, which was great. So doing a lot of social media stuff, doing a lot of traveling, like around the country for just some various political clients, which is a lot of fun. But just enjoying the West Palm life, right? Waiting for Florida hurricane season, right? Which is here, and seeing if we actually get hit this year. So that's always fun. So just chilling and frilling, living the dream, baby.
Sam, you working with 2 of my guys right now, Mike Lindell, run for governor in Minnesota, the My Pillow guy.
That's right.
I got to talk to him about crypto last week.
Nice.
We sat down for maybe 15, 20 minutes, talked over. Somebody I actually thought of you and like the legislative work you do with Mike. And then Ken Paxton, Texas Attorney General, running for Senate in Texas. He's somebody else that I'm working closely with. So both of those people would love to introduce you. Like if you guys don't know, Sam does incredible lobbying work. You've been doing the state by state Bitcoin reserve and strategic, like crypto strategic reserves. And could you just like kind of break down the legislative agenda that you champion?
Yeah, and of course it changes year by year. I mean, it's fascinating because now we're in the Trump years, which is great because it means federal policy has been really good. We've had the Genius Act passed, which has to do with stable coins. Now we're waiting on the Clarity Act. And obviously kind of state legislation depends on what the federal government does. So when Biden was president, like 95% of what we were looking at for states passing is like how defensive do we have to be against what Biden's trying to push. Now with Trump, it's, oh, how aggressive can we be? And now that we kind of have like a federal platform, like for example, not to get too in the weeds, but very simply put, the Genius Act was kind of like a banking reform where you had a federal industrial complex for stable coins, but then they ceded a lot of authority to the states. So then all the states then had to go and pass kind of our own mini like Genius Acts. And that's what we did here in Florida, which is just like the banking industry. A lot of people don't know, but what makes the United States unique is we have a dual banking industry. We have federal banks and you have state banks. And that's what makes the states very powerful is we can have our own banks. So the idea was, well, states should be able to also have their own stable coins. Sounds super simple and arbitrary, but long term will be a huge deal in case there's in the future any federal overreach. So that was a big part of our agenda, but that was only because we had the Trump administration pass the Genius Act. Had this been Biden, it would have been a totally different story. During Biden, like the big push at that time, which is now just old and boring news, but at the time was hot and crazy, right? Was anti-central bank digital currencies. And Florida, of course, was the first state to ban those, and then a bunch of other states did as well. So now it's kind of fun. It's actually more fun being defensive. Now that we're on the offensive, you're just kind of tweaking the machine a little bit. So now, yes, it's like, okay, can we get a Bitcoin reserve in every state? You know, once the Clarity Act passes, are there going to be slight state modifications that we make to the Clarity Act? Because everything involves a layer of state regulation. And how can states kind of push on certain issues, whether it's, self-custody or whatnot, right? So it's interesting. It's still fun, but it's just a totally different world to be offensive as it is to be defensive.
So I'm curious because we're going to talk about like nomad or digital nomad life, and I think there's a lot of crossover between campaign life and being like a digital nomad, right? Like for me, I've done campaigns all over the world, worked with world leaders doing campaign work in like 3 different continents, and so I'm curious before we like dive into that with Evan, Sam, who do you think, like which state do you think is most pro cryptocurrency? Like my guess would be Wyoming, but Florida not far behind.
It's a hard question to ask because, like Florida is an attractive state to be in, so we could do half of what Wyoming does, and people would still rather move here. So if you're talking strictly crypto, sure, Wyoming will always have a place. But if you talk to anyone, no one really gives a shit at all. And they'd rather take 50% of what Wyoming has and actually live somewhere that they want to live, which is, fun fact, not Wyoming, and take it anywhere else. So I think Texas is really good. Texas and Florida are probably the most livable that people actually want to go to and see friendly regulation with. But it always depends on the niche. I know Arizona has started to become really good. Wyoming will always be good. States like New Hampshire tend to be pretty friendly as well. I know Tennessee is starting to really get there too. But we've been pretty aggressive here in Florida. So, as a whole package, I don't know anyone who wants to move to Wyoming, but they certainly are crypto friendly.
The only time I've spent a lot of time driving through, it's always windy and extremely desolate. There's not much. Evan, have you ever nomaded in Wyoming?
Yeah, you got me bringing some great memories. I drove through, I drove up from LA to Yellowstone back in 2021, and then from Yellowstone drove all the way there to like Mount Rushmore, and it was an incredible drive. Very very scenic. I was listening to, nobody listens to this, and I haven't listened to this probably since then, but like local AM radios, radio stations while I was driving through. A lot of like the local feel was really cool and probably like such a great sense of community. Obviously, a lot of those people probably could care less, about crypto. That was in 2021. The amount of Trump signs I saw through that drive was just incredible. It was awesome. So yeah, I mean, people don't. I mean, I feel like living in Wyoming all year, a lot of people that's probably not for them. I mean, there was still snow. I was there in May of 2021, and there was still snow on the ground around Yellowstone. But I mean, there's a reason why all that land in certain areas near Yellowstone or Jackson Hole, it's expensive, right? If I'm not mistaken, and like a lot of people vacation homes for tax purposes, and they also love it in the summertime, kind of like Big Sky, Montana. For people listening, if you haven't been out there, like it's hard to kind of grasp it because it's really nice. Like it's even nicer than like California. That's probably some of the most scenic areas of the United States. So yeah,
it's beautiful.
That drive you're talking about, dude. So if you go up and you go up through near Yosemite, the 395 up the eastern side of the Sierras, that's one of the best drives ever.
Oh, yeah. I've been around Mammoth Lakes too. That's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Mammoth Lake, which is saltwater, very interesting. Or you take the southern Utah route, which is my favorite drive of all time. If you go southern Utah through Vegas, up through into like heading towards Denver. Oh, okay. Man.
It's incredible.
2 of the best drives of all time. But like the show Yellowstone, I feel like has kind of like ruined the secret of like, so I grew up in the rural West. So I feel like Yellowstone has made it like Yuppieville now. And I'm looking for a more real experience,
Yeah, I mean, it's vast, man. I mean, there's so many different states. There's Colorado. I haven't even done much in Colorado other than Denver, but you could spend a lot of time. And there's been a lot of like those YouTube vloggers that went out there and would sleep in their cars, just drive around that whole area. It's incredible out there for, we're giving it away. It's supposed to be a secret, but yeah.
Where do you think most people are then gonna start moving to? Because it really is like that. We're like, people all migrate to one area, even in the US and then, internationally. But it's like, okay, everyone now left from California. Now they're going to Florida and Texas. So like, where's going to be the next state? Maybe one of these crypto friendly states. Also, like, which one has the best tax incentives right now? That all changes like every year. You have to get your own tax planner to figure out, like, for your business or even just like for your family, if you're an employee, even what's going to be best for you. And I feel like people are always just kind of like looking for the next hot spot.
Well, I think Sam hit the nail on the head, which is like, you can't underestimate weather and livability. Right? Like, I've been reading tons about, because of Mandami and New York and the like rise of the socialists and the anti-Semites, that Miami is becoming the new like financial hub, financial media hub, like where people are flocking to. But Tennessee seems to, Austin had this like explosive growth, like in the 2010s. So much so that, like, I lived there. I had a house on Lake Travis. The infrastructure was like, could not handle how fast people were moving there. I feel like the same thing's happening in the Nashville and Tennessee area now. I feel like that's one of the real growth explosion zones. I'm curious what you guys think. I'd say my list right now, Florida, still dominant. We still have plenty of room. If you're a dipshit, though, like, don't bother. You're not going to fit in. You're going to hate it, right? Like, if you want big daddy government to come protect you at every level, or you want, like, we were driving to the airport today. Construction happens and is completed here. Like, most of the states I've lived in, construction projects are like lifetime things. Like, oh, we're still working on the same section of freeway 10 years later. Here, we just redid an entire, like, the St. Pete to Tampa freeway, completely rebuilt a new bridge, 10 lanes, freaking amazing, completed in like 9 months. Like, I don't know. I feel like Florida, Tennessee, both also regulatory, government-wise, I think are very favorable. But then usually as it happens, other states will see the advantages and have to adjust. It's the beautiful thing about federalism, right? Which is, if certain states do things that attract people, other states are likely to copy that to try to attract like growth and business. So I don't know what's like, but I know right now it's Tennessee and Florida would be my two.
Dustin, I was recently on a flight. I was seeing a friend in Hilton Head, and I was thinking about like, oh, security is different. I went in the clear line, and I'm always like paranoid about it because I don't want big daddy government following me around. There's no line anymore. There's another line where you can use clear as long as you have the app. So I was like, never mind. Like, I'm just gonna go through regular security. It's fine. I'll just wait in the line. And then you have to opt out to not get your photo stored. I mean, really, if you're using the Clear app on your phone, it's probably just a way to track you a little bit easier, right? Versus like just opting in on their screen.
They have so many ways to track you. Like that's a rabbit hole if you want to go. Because like I've been into like the anti-flock camera stuff and a bunch of stuff lately. But like,
well, I was thinking you should have your security guy on next. You guys can all come too, and we can talk about how to evade.
Well, he's pro big daddy government as long as he's the one who like gets all the data and information. He's got access. And it's okay. But
fine, as long as he's the one getting all the data.
But it is fast because when things got really like bad after January 6th, I was like serious about like, am I allowed to have private conversations again? Basically the answer was like, yeah, if you go into a level 6 skiff with a white noise machine. Otherwise, if they want to listen to, and we give them so much access to like everything we did that like these piecemeal, right? Like, I do it. I put the tape over the cameras and like try to leave my phone. But the surveillance state is getting almost scary out of control. And it's curious because like when they track everything, like for Evan, how many countries, states, like how often do you move?
I've lived in probably over 10 countries. I mean, I've only had like a real residency in only like 3 or 4 states though. But, I feel like I'm harder to, well, yeah, I mean, all these other countries have their, they take a picture of you, they take your fingerprint. Yeah, I mean, they're like you said, there's no avoiding it. The only way to avoid it, I think, was if you got to go to a cave somewhere, go to a cave in like Thailand or something, maybe, just find a cave in the north or something,
I've been working on this. I'm gonna teach people how to build their own like Faraday rooms, right?
Yeah.
Like, but how if you want to like unplug from all and how right like the whole gray man strategy. So like if we're gonna have revolutionaries in the future, and I'm not saying that we are, but maybe that's something that we should consider, like being anti-government. You're going to have like 1 foot in society and blend in, and come up with unique ways to like comms is like really interesting, and it really gets to the heart of what cryptography is before, right? Like we all say crypto, but cryptography, like how you communicate in a way with other people without people being able to listen or in a secretive way, like those are the kinds of problems I love to like waste a bunch of like energy and thought on.
Well, everyone here, like in this call, would be interested in that, security, protecting your data, right? You guys are into that. You guys kind of live on the outskirts a little. Health, very into that. So, like, what protocols do you follow for protecting your data? Do you worry about it, or have you kind of thrown? Lately, I've thrown in the towel. That's what I want to say. I just want to say, like, I kind of gave up. I did my part. I did not use the Clear app, but I'm too busy, like just working and, trying to get my sleep schedule on track to like worry too much about my data. And now I'm like, well, I was panicking a little bit about it. Like, oh, is it too far? Am I just like, that's it? There's going to be clone Danas everywhere now.
I mean, I have pre-check and Clear. I just care about my time and efficiency. And like with pre-check, you don't have to go through the X-ray. It's just a metal detector, right? And so for me, because I travel so much, it was nice to not have to like be X-rayed constantly. So, with how much I travel, I'm very similar to you, Dana, where I think I'm practical about a few things, right? I try not to be stupid about my data, but I also know if I'm ever a target, like it's very hard to be halfway in and out. And if your toe's in, they can use your toe to get to the rest of the body. And so if you're paranoid about the rest of the body, but you're still trying to say, well, I want to function in X, Y, or Z fashion, then you're kind of actually tricking yourself into thinking that you're secure. It's kind of like recycling, right? People who recycle think they feel good. So people care more about feeling good than they do the practicality of actually helping the environment and stuff. So I try not to be stupid, but I'm also not like, I know what I can and can't do and what I have time for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about you, Evan?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's obviously tough. And it really depends, because obviously the thing with data is what you can do is if you have your own hard drive and stuff like that and you would keep it encrypted, that's a big deal. Now, everybody's too lazy for that. We want to have our photos on the Google Photos app immediately. You know what I mean? And even if you have an iPhone with a lot of storage, you usually run out with videos or things of that nature. That's the big thing. You have to carry around your hard drive. Now, what if your house catches on fire? What if you lose the heart? There's things of that nature. You can make backups and store them in safety deposit boxes. Can we trust the bank? Can we trust that? We kind of can to a certain extent. Without a search warrant, they probably can't get it. Things of that nature, at least so far. And I've been even like the security too. I don't know, people exaggerate a little bit, but I've been reading some Reddit posts where people are coming back to the US from say any country, Latin America, Asia, and they're getting like, they want them to give them their phone unlocked to go through their phone or whatever. And they're like accusing them of, things such as human trafficking, things of all this nature, which, I mean, I'm all for going after people who, maybe human trafficking, but like these are US citizens. That's kind of, to just take your phone unlocked, and they'll take it away from you. And I think you can't get it back, even if you refuse to give it to them unlocked, they'll take it away from you and, get in it themselves. I think there's less rights in that aspect. And I hate to say it, but I think that's probably the direction we're going in. It's probably getting more towards, how Europe is, and Europe's getting, you look at the UK, I mean, freedom of speech is basically dead there. I mean, what was it? There's people that have gone to jail for years for just writing on Facebook, like, oh, we should burn down this place with immigrants, which I don't condone posting that, but I think that, to give somebody 3 years for that is just, outrageous. Didn't cause that amount of damages. You know what I mean? So I think we're heading to kind of towards that direction. I would say even, the big thing, the model everybody's afraid of is kind of the Chinese model, but I would even argue that they're actually getting a little bit more lenient because they're just trying to become the world's biggest economy. I mean, the biggest thing with them is like during the end of the pandemic, they had that white paper protest where the civilians kind of won that to a certain extent, if you guys remember that. So, China's kind of like capitalism with a strict parent to a certain extent. So I think that's what we're going to, as well. And I think at the end of the day too, like usually, and this is the biggest takeaway that the average person can, take away from this. And you look at, the prime example, I don't know if I should bring him up, but who's in prison, right next to us right now, it's Andrew Tate. The prime example there is like, usually you have a chance, just don't piss off too many people. Just try to, if they want you to shut up, kind of just shut up. Just don't irritate too many people. 90% of problems happen from somebody just kind of overstepping their bounds too much and just becoming overly annoying kind of. And even, that interview with like Elon Musk on Joe Rogan from last year after Trump got shot, he was saying stuff like, oh man, they're going to kill me if I say this. Even Elon Musk was saying that, which you could argue maybe he was getting a little bit paranoid when he was taking out a little too much ketamine. The psychedelics could do that to you. You don't know what to believe. We live in some, interesting times. I think times have always been kind of crazy, but yeah.
Is Tate in jail right now?
I believe he's in solitary confinement in Miami, from what I heard, which it's weird because he doesn't have any charges against him in the U.S. The UK is trying to extradite him, which my view would be like, okay, let's just extradite him back to the UK. Why does he have to stay in prison in the U.S.? That's my kind of view.
Well, he's a U.S. citizen and a citizen of another country, right?
The UK,
but not a citizen. Is he so he is a citizen because his dad was from the UK?
You'd have to look it up, but I'm 90% sure he's a dual citizen of the U.S. and the UK.
But no other country.
He probably has some obscure passports, I'm sure. Maybe Romania. He lived there, at least a permanent residency. He could have Romania. I don't know. How would that affect things?
Just jurisdiction and how he's being held and how he falls under. So like that's where it gets really interesting, is just like people like Andrew Tate can, if you're a dual citizen, can become pawns of international politics, right? Which is just a very easy thing to do. And it just adds extra layers, right? Like the Tates are interesting because I saw a tweet that is kind of how I follow, where it's very possible that they did illegal stuff. It's also very possible that people want them in jail because of their opinions and nothing to do with the legalities, right? Both of those things can be true at once. The big question is, like, how much should our current government or administration take stake in that, right? So, and that's a very interesting question that I don't really have an answer to, right? But I haven't really been following the Tate drama, so I don't really know. Like, I haven't read any of the court stuff.
Yeah, or go ahead, Dustin.
Well, I was just gonna say one of the best examples of the kind of like international, like getting caught in between is Julian Assange.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize that he was held in the embassy. He was never charged in the UK. There were Swiss charges right? Like some kind of obscure, like he poked holes in condoms charges. So some very weird, like it was,
that was the one they got him for?
Yeah, so that was the charge out of Sweden that allowed them to kind of just hold him indefinitely. and then he ended up taking refuge in like the Ecuadorian embassy
Yes.
for 10 years, right? Like he just like kind of had to pull up. I mean, I know the Tates, I know Tristan better than I know Andrew. I think both things, I think both things are true, right? Which is they definitely push the envelope legally on stuff, but they also put, I think Evan pointed it out really well. They also painted a giant target on their back.
Yep.
By constantly poking the bear. There's a lot of people that you meet, like you meet some people and you're like, this person is just begging to like have the authority get brought, like the hammer brought.
Yep.
You know, and like when Laura Loomer got banned from Twitter originally, it was like, you know, no one was surprised because she was pushing the line over, like pushing that line over and over and over again. At some point, you're just asking for, right, like to have it come down on you. But then there's other examples where it just happens out of the blue. I wonder how many people, like, I would never turn my unlocked phone over to any government authority. Like, carry a second phone that's like wiped. Like, eat the expense. If you could afford to travel, right? Like, have a wiped phone or a AB phone, like clean side, mud side phones.
Isn't there a recent court case I just saw about a graphene phone where I guess someone had a graphene phone. The authorities, whoever they were, asked for the password. Guy gives them the password, which was actually the password to wipe the phone. And so now, right? But that's the point of these graphene phones. And so once again, haven't looked into this case other than like the headline in the first paragraph. But now that's going to be an interesting, like, did he have a right to do that? Right. And that's where everything we're talking about your data and protecting yourself, the answer to all that is just having a good attorney. Right. Right. Like that is the ultimate, because at the end of the day, you can get in any or painted in any kind of corner for anything that you've done at any point in your time on this earth. And just having a local magician, otherwise known as an attorney, to be able to help you at least weed through some of that, it's probably one of the most useful things that you can do.
It's quality advice.
Really interesting. I haven't heard about those types of phones either. That's like really funny.
It's the typical, like, you know, be your own bank, but be your own data manager on the phone. So even if I forget the password and I enter it 5 times, the phone will just self-wipe everything, right? So you buy an Android, I think graphene's an OS, and you can do all these little things to make it as complicated and secure as possible. And if you were me, you would just end up screwing yourself up and probably deleting all your own information by accident. So, but if you're smart, you know, which I am not, I'm sure you can use it for all kinds of fun things.
Well, the naive people are also like, oh, well, there's nothing there. Like, it's fine. Well, the thing is exactly what Dustin was talking about before. If there is something that you've said that made someone mad and they want to get you in trouble, they'll take whatever out of context and utilize it against you to just go ahead and punish you. And you made me think of the bad boy of pharmaceuticals, Martin Shkreli. I was just looking up that case. Remember what he got thrown in jail for ultimately? I mean, he took the drug that was curing, toxoplasmosis, which was just like suppressing it in AIDS patients, and then 10xing the price. It made people really mad, and he was flaunting it. And the only thing that actually got him in jail was he posted an offering on Facebook that was offering $5,000 to anyone who could take a piece of Clinton Hillary's hair. Clinton Hillary, yeah, that's what I'm reading it right now, with the follicle attached while she was on her book tour. His lawyers called it a tasteless joke, but the judge viewed it as a potential threat. So then
That's what they got him on. I did not know that.
They revoked his bail, ruling that his erratic online behavior made him a danger to society. So that's what did it. It's like, could be
It's tough
anything
because
else.
once again, like as a normal person, I never liked that guy. Still probably don't like the guy. Totally forgot he existed. But then it's like, wow, what a great example of government overreach. So it's tough because then I'm left defending someone who I think is atrocious, right? Which is why I'm better off just, in one sense, not caring. I'll let his attorneys figure it out because what business do I have defending someone whose I think character is awful, but the government is using someone with awful character to overreach, and that will in the end impact my life. What a tough world we live in.
But the reality is, you know, doing what other pharmaceutical companies are doing, like at a smaller private way that he was doing. I mean, he would argue that that's kind of like what he's showing, which is what we already do in the US and how it's bad. And he's like, look, I'm doing it. So I'm not doing anything illegal, nanny, nanny, boo boo. And because he was like saying it in that way, it was really threatening all of these other very profitable pharmaceutical companies. That's a no-no. That'll get you in trouble.
There are still entities in this world not to fuck with, right? Like that.
What are those, Dustin? Give us top 10. 5.
CIA would be number 1.
Okay.
Right? The intelligence community can and will fuck you up if you cross the wrong people there. Like they will, like just straight up number 1. Pharma would be number 2.
Yeah.
Big energy, old Texas oil money would be number 3. And that also extends up to Alaska, not to mess with. The top political, not the like politicians, but like if somebody's been chief of staff on Capitol Hill for a long time, that person can probably wreck you in ways that you've never even possibly considered. And then I'd say the last one is anyone who's a billionaire and can afford all of the best attorneys that Sam was talking about. So like those would be like, there are still entities in this world that if you mess with them, like they have the ability to wreck your, like completely upend your life for a long time in ways that you probably haven't even thought of. So
yeah.
I just list off the top of my head, actually.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, all those people are connections with government. You got to realize too, it's the judge you have can affect the case. You know, everything's very subjective. You know, the jurisdiction you're in. Do the prosecutors want to prosecute this case? What judge do you have? What connections do you have? All these people that you mentioned have connections with these people, and they could find the ones that are willing to go after you for probably an indirect amount of, you know, monetary thing. That's usually the reason for everything. It's money. Some type of way they will, you know, get money out of it. You know, everybody's kind of in search of more freedom, more money. That's generally the reason to all things. I mean, it's usually money. Yeah.
Evan, you travel a lot. Go ahead, Dustin.
But to Evan's point, why I screwed around, like being debanked was something that like I'd never thought of, and what was so horrific as far as like being able to function in society with no recourse. Right, like the thing is, the nice thing about judges and courts is like, you know, we have due process rights, but like in kind of the public-private world, especially when you're traveling like internationally, when you start to get into these like weird gray legal areas, like there's things that can happen to you that like just the recourse can take years. And even then, there's no guaranteed outcome, or you never get, like, if you're debanked, you don't get to go confront your accuser or like try to make your case in front of somebody who, like, there's no appeal process. It's just like somebody flipped a switch somewhere, says you're on the PEP list, and like no more bank for you. So I guess, Evan, when you travel, my guess is you're just kind of an affable guy, probably not trying to overthrow governments. No, good stuff.
Oh,
right.
No.
like what tips do you do when you're traveling internationally, right? Because the cool thing about the world we're coming into, you can go anywhere. Like
Yeah.
if you work on, like, if your computer is based on like Zoom calls and what you do on your computer, you could do that from just about anywhere with an internet connection. And if you've got a Starlink, you could do it from literally just about anywhere. Like what do you do when you're doing this stuff to kind of like keep yourself, like, my goal is always like the least amount of interactions with people with authority wherever I'm going.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, I would say the top three rules are: number one, don't piss people off; number two, don't piss people off; number three, don't piss people like, just don't anger. Like, don't, because most of these countries too, like, they don't really, all of Asia pretty much, if they want to go after it's getting to the point. It's like that in the US, but there's still, they pretend, these judges and all these things, they pretend like it's a due process when it's really not certain times. But all these countries, they just, you piss the wrong person, it's over. You know what I mean? But there's good and bad off of that. You trade, it's a lot safer. You could walk around these places any time of day, a lot of these places, with not much to worry about. You can go to the slums in a lot of Southeast Asia and people will just wave at you. You know what I mean? There's trade-offs, definitely trade-offs there. But yeah, I would say 90% of people who run into trouble, they irritated somebody or did something they shouldn't have been doing. They were doing something illegal, something of that nature. They were kind of overstepping their bounds. They were being stupid generally, 90% of the time. There are people that get unlucky. You could have been in the wrong place at the wrong time and something could have kind of happened to you. I would say, and this is a very obvious thing, don't flaunt wealth. Don't act too arrogant. That's definitely a big one. Yeah, I mean, it just comes down to the thing with Andrew Tate too. Like, just don't piss people off. And I mean, sometimes, you may be trying to, I guess there could be something unjust or something, that you're trying to go after, that you're trying to raise exposure to. But like you mentioned, pharmaceuticals, oils, they're people you don't want to, pick your battles. Maybe it's worth it to be a martyr. I don't know, but that it's the road that you may not want to go on. It really depends, what you want to do. And that's kind of just how always life has been. There's always been, I mean, everybody's gotten, Abraham Lincoln got shot, JFK got shot, MLK got shot, the list goes on and on. Trump's assassination attempt, almost got killed. I wonder what the hell sometimes I think there's not much talked about that anymore. I wonder what would have happened if he did get shot. I mean,
as you were bringing, I was trying to remember where I heard this. It was some podcast. They were talking about, like, who is the person you would call if you were locked up in a foreign country. Like, that person isn't usually the richest person It's not always like the most successful person but it's the person who has the most agency. And like it actually was like a really fascinating thought experiment. Like, who would you, like, if you are in deep shit somewhere in a far, far away place, like, who is the person that, like, you get one number to write down that you want to call? That's somebody that, like, whoever who has the most agency. I can't remember where I heard that conversation, but it was an interesting thought. Dana, who are you calling if you end up locked up foreign country?
I'm calling you. You're getting me out. You're calling the president. I don't know, but you pull some strings, I think.
We could break you out.
It's funny you say that, because I heard that same saying before, but around when hiring people. There was a CEO who said, I've never hired based on resumes. And, like, I know a couple people like that. Ben's one of them as well. But I only look at how much agency they have, because then I know that they're going to get things done, figured out either way. And they're also going to take personal responsibility. It's kind of a character trait that people are, like, born with, in my opinion, but it's shaped even more through their life and experiences that they've had in life. I think everyone can learn it, but I think you are kind of born with the pieces. Maybe that's a little incorrect, but I just think about even, like, these little kids that I've seen who are just, like, they have such a strong resolve. and they're just like very think for themselves. They're kind of a little bit like that, and you can nurture it or not.
Hmm.
You know, I was also thinking like, it's funny that we're talking about like traveling and not getting thrown in jail, but once I traveled with a hyperbaric before, you guys will enjoy this, and I brought my oxygen concentrator. I remember thinking like, oh, I'm gonna get stuck here. I went to Bulgaria and I was gonna be there for a bit, so I brought my oxygen and also my hyperbaric, but you should not ever label it as oxygen. You know, I started labeling it as an air filter because oxygen is like
Could
flammable.
explode, yeah.
Yeah, but there's no oxygen in it. Like it just takes
Oh.
air and then it makes more oxygen, right?
Oh,
But if it says
okay.
really big on the box, it's going to seem like you're bringing something that's going to blow up. So that'll get you held. You know, that'll get a lot of questions. Like you might not easily be able to move from place to place with things like that. Also, I remember one time I had a layover in what's like one of the places where a lot of drugs comes from?
Colombia?
Colombia.
Please.
Colombia. I am very sure it's just because I look like this that they're like, you know what? I bet it's just this girl. It's someone, she's smuggling something in. Someone gave her something, and that's what it is. And they look through all my stuff. I'm like, here we go again. Let's just go through all my stuff and make sure. So, yeah, you're right. Don't like flaunt any wealth. Also, like maybe dye your hair or something. Wear some glasses. Look professional.
So don't be blonde.
No, I think there's still a little like if you're going to a place where everyone is blonde, you're good. You know, you want to fit in. You're going to a Scandinavian country, awesome. You're going to somewhere else, like maybe wear a hat. Or maybe don't. I don't know. Maybe that's suspicious. I don't know.
That's the thing too. Like it's weird because like there's so many people in the US that have blonde hair and blue eyes, but outside the US, obviously Asian, Latin America, it's very rare. And then when I come back to the US, after I've been out of the US for a while, I start to notice people with blonde hair and blue eyes start to stand out to me like a lot more. I notice them like from a mile away than when I'm back in the US because I never see anyone with those features outside the US. Or at least not, you know, outside of Europe, you know.
I've heard before that people who grow up in like an Asian country, they naturally will see different features and they'll very easily be able to tell the difference between, you know, like Sally and Karen or whatever it is. Like the features just look differently. But for us, we kind of like gloss over just whatever we mostly see. It's kind of like a survival mechanism. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
So Evan,
it's terrible advice to tell people to like act shady, right? Like don't over like right. You don't want the Groucho Marx look. You don't want to seem like you're trying to hide yourself too much.
Yeah, you don't want to seem like that. No.
I think you've got like I don't know. Although for me, travel always depends on who the president is. Like during the Obama years, I could not leave the country and come back without getting like the full secondary.
And really? And I'm curious about this. So did you know why that was happening, or you just knew by default you always were going to get another search down, you prepared for it, and they never told you why?
Well, listen, I knew why.
I know you knew why. But
I was publicly going after Obama and Axelrod and a bunch of his advisors. Like, I'm sure I was on every list. But then Trump became president, and like now I breezed through. And then Biden became president. It was like again secondary. So like, can we just make sure we don't have Democrat
political?
Yeah, I could travel internationally without hassle. That'd be cool.
That's really interesting. Evan, have you ever gotten held up like in a weird customs thing? Not for political reasons or anything, or maybe. I don't know.
There's only one time. It had nothing to do with if you have a brand new passport that has no stamps in it and you just arrive in Thailand and you have a brand new passport, they're going to think it's fake. And they're going to actually ask you if you have your old passport, which I didn't have. And they're going to be really strict, like checking, how long are you staying here? What's your accommodation? you have a return flight, and they will make you buy a return flight. And the guy's bending through the whole passport, and he's like, "Do you have a return flight?" I'm like, "No, not yet. Buy the return flight now. You take too long." They're just being very dicky to you, and then they're going through every page. Those passports are very sturdy. I thought he was going to rip it apart, but it went through, and then he's like, "Okay, you got to go to this part," and then he brings me to the supervisor, whatever. The supervisor asked me like, "Oh, do you have your old passport?" I'm like, "No, it's expired. I didn't bring it. I just have this new one." And he was like, "Okay, you're good," and he just stamped it and let me go. But it was a little scary for a few minutes, So that's the worst that's ever happened to me. I'm trying to
That's not bad.
There was one time. Okay, this is interesting. So Peru, if you Google how long an American can stay in Peru with a U.S. passport, it will tell you 6 months. They recently, within the last 2 years, I think since Trump got in again, they changed it. And it's at the discretion of the person that lets you in the country. And they don't stamp your passport, so you have no idea. And I stayed like over a month. I thought I had 6 months, so it was like 5 weeks. And I ran into like a checkpoint where they check how long you've been there. And so they gave me like I overstayed, and they gave me like some summons, and I had to go to like their local court thing. But they were really nice at like the local court thing. The guy just told me I could stay as long as I wanted to. But then when you go to like leave the country, you have to pay a fine. This is so ridiculous. This is so funny. I'm not even making this up. I swear this happened. You have to pay a fine. They won't take cash. You have to pay it on your phone when you go through their customs to leave. And you have to have a signal on your phone. If you don't have a signal at that area, you can't, you're stuck in, I don't know, this jail or whatever. So you have to pay the $20 fine. And so everybody's like, all these, foreigners or whatever, they're standing in line to leave. And I'm just like this, walking around trying to get 1 bar or 2 bars to try to pay the stupid fine online. And it took maybe like, and they wouldn't like let me, I'm like, could I just walk out and like, come back and can I pay the fine out there? No, you can't. Just like, what the? I guess if I didn't have to do that, I would have had to leave and go to a different airport and without a signal. And I don't know it's a weird. They wouldn't take cash either. And that's what's interesting too, because all know most of these countries will take your cash. It's always negotiable. If you got it, even at just $100 in cash usually gets you pretty far for most of these things. But no, Peru's gotten a little bit stricter. They're getting more developed. A lot of these countries, I guess, as the rule I've seen is that once a country gets above like a GDP per capita above maybe 25, 30K, then they get more strict. You're not going to take bribes. I mean, I don't think Japan, you would ever get away with that. That's a higher GDP per capita. But even some of these other countries, they're getting stricter.
So I'm like laughing because it's so true that if you go online, you look up like, oh, like I want to travel to Peru. They're not going to tell you these things. They're going to tell you like what to wear and what the weather's like and whatever. And the reality is like, you don't know any of this stuff until you actually like experience it. And probably if you're there for a while, like I remember I was doing some medical tourism in Taiwan and I had to pay this bill. I paid it and I signed my signature like with my name, but it's like a very patriarchal place as well. You got to follow the rules. Like if the rules are set, or if they say like, we don't take cash, we only take this amount, or we only take like card, for example, that's the rule. Like, people think that they can just go ahead and like Venmo or something. No. So in this case, my signature did not match my credit card signature. So they were like, well, we're not accepting this. And oh, by the way, like you can't fly back until, until like the signature matches and the bill is like checked out. Now you can get your return flight. So I was like practicing my signature so I could sign it exactly like what's on my credit card, because that would be the only way that like they accept my payment and I can go home. That's just like silly rules that
I don't even sign my credit cards at all. I don't even
I
don't even I don't even sign them.
They just really follow the rules there, and I think there's a lot of other places like that. And then it's always going to be like up to whoever it is. So you just have to like play the game, play the monkey game, and then follow the rules, and then you're good to go. So anyway, but But yeah, this was really fun. I guess we can wrap up because we're already like 7, and I know Sam, you have to go. Please come back again. And Evan, what do you think you're going to be talking about at the ITC conference? Do you have your topic yet? We'll have to talk about that later.
Yeah, I mean, a few different things. I mean, obviously, with the market, probably the way the market's going, generally the macro allocation, what to be in, at that time. I think that's probably going to be a good time for Bitcoin. Obviously, I'm strong on Bitcoin right now. I think I'm waiting for more opportunities, definitely in the AI sector as well. But I think Bitcoin's going to still be very strong for the next 2 to 3 years, potentially outperforming AI. So basically Bitcoin macro cycles, kind of, I'm more of a momentum macro allocator. So that type of stuff, but I'm open to other ideas, other topics too. So.
Okay, well, we will talk about that, and you guys can check it out, benjamincowan.com. You can see the conference there. And we will also do another, we do this podcast every Tuesday at 6. So we'll see you guys then. And thanks for coming, Sam and Evan. Later.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much, Tana. It's a pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.